Welcome to our roundtable for July for the Housing Facility Services Committee. We have hit the point where facilities folks are busy and stretched and running all kinds of directions. So we're going to have a smaller group today, but we'll go ahead and move through some of the questions that folks have sent today and see who else might join us. Do want to make sure I continue to refer folks to the website for some of the online resources that are available with the online community, and then also some of the recordings that are there for folks. My name is Teresa Frederick. I'm at Missouri State University, and I'll be leading us in our conversation today. Just a reminder that this is conversation based, and so it's really led by the folks who are on our call today. And so would encourage you to participate and join either verbally or in the chat that is available to make the most of our time together. I'm going to go ahead and start with the Conference and Program Committee, and so I will turn it over to Aubrey to provide some updates from the group.
Thanks, Teresa. So the conference this year, if you all have not already heard, is going to be virtual, in a virtual format again. It is going to take place from October 21st and 22nd of this year. And registration is currently open, and early registration ends tomorrow. So if you are thinking about joining, just a heads up about that. But we should have lots more information about this when we meet again next, as the call for programs just closed. So we'll be working through those and should have lots of information to share here soon.
Thank you, Aubrey. Joel Gotti is not with us today, but do want to make sure that we provide the information on how to connect with the group. You can either send Joel an email or utilize the link that is available there to share your interest with the group. That will let us know if there's a specific subcommittee you're interested in working with. And also, either way, the email or the form allows us to get you on our email list so that you're familiar with the things we have happening with the group. Also, a plug for the online community app. Would encourage you to take a look at that, and another way to quickly access some of the conversation that happens through the online community. The Sustainable Facilities Committee is meeting today, and so they meet immediately following our meeting, and the link is there for folks. I will try to get that pulled into the chat while we're moving through things, but just wanted to share that with you. If you have an interest in that group, Robin leads that team, and so his email is available to you there. I am now going to turn it over to Josh, our ACUO-I liaison, executive board liaison, so he can share some updates with us.
Thanks, Teresa, and happy summer, everybody. Hopefully it is going well. The biggest work that recently occurred with ACUO-I was wrapping up the annual conference and exposition, which I think went relatively well. We are excited about now planning for the return to in-person events, which likely the first in-person meeting for ACUO-I will be next year's annual conference and exposition, although there might be some other things in the spring that sort of filter in there ahead of time. I wanted to point your attention to two resources that have come out in the last week from ACUO-I. The first is some sponsored research that was done in collaboration with the National Survey of Student Engagement, or NSSE, creating some briefs about the case for campus housing. And this is new research that I think confirms what we've known for a long time, that the on-campus housing experience is really a valuable effort for students and increases persistence, particularly among certain segments of the population. And so I'll post links to that in the chat box. Those are tailored to VPs, there's 4 or 5 different briefs that have different groups are tailored for, and you can really use it to help make budget arguments and what have you. The second thing that was released last week was a culmination of work over the last 3 months to renew what was called the Future of Housing Task Force last year, that helped identify COVID-related considerations coming into this year. It's reframed now as a re-entry to fall 2021 considerations for practice document. And that's a great resource to help make sure that we're thinking through all of the different aspects of returning to whatever you're returning from, whether it's having a higher occupancy or having staff come back. There's sections on capacity, staffing, residential engagement, operations and processes, advocacy, and case management. And I think it's pretty thoughtfully done. So I'd point you to those. As always, you see my email address there. If you've got any feedback for the executive board or questions, I'd be happy to field those. Otherwise, we'll turn it back to Teresa.
Great. Are there any questions or comments for Josh on what he shared? I do want to make note, Dee Dee has commented that she spent some time with the reentry document this weekend and said there's a lot of great things in there that she is utilizing with her staff. And so I'd encourage folks to take a look at that. All right. Okay, and then the sustainability meeting information is in the chat, along with the documents from Josh. And then the last item from me is the interest form for those who would like to join us or just share their interest. So consult with colleagues. Now we've reached the roundtable portion of our meeting today. And again, these are questions that folks have submitted when they registered or they've just emailed in advance saying that they would like more information or thoughts from their peers. Or there are things that we've seen in the online community relatively recently that are facilities related. And so just going to open the floor for conversations about the various topics. Okay, click in between screens. Okay, the first thing that came up is staffing shortages. So wanted to see where folks were at. Are you currently experiencing staffing shortages on your campus? Have you started to, what is your plan? How are you addressing those shortages? Is it temporary staff? Is it overtime? Are you changing what services you're offering? And how are you going to get past it? So now I'll open that up.
Well, we're real nervous, I can tell you that. The job market in Seattle is definitely a candidate market, and I think I've got 35 custodial vacancies right now and just seeing a very slow trickle of applicants. We're really hoping it picks up over the summer. Haven't quite gotten to the point of contingency planning yet, although I think our next move would be bringing in some outside staffing agencies and having them help either with recruitment or staff augmentation.
That's kind of where I'm at, Josh. And part of this was me, contingency planning or the succession planning. And overtime is not a huge option, but even for me to try and get temporary staff in, we're not getting any applications at all. Again, small area, reduction of services. I hope not, especially getting ready to go back, full face-to-face for the most part, and having to kick things up a little bit more. I was able to get 2 full-time positions that they had defunded earlier last year. They went ahead and refunded those, and those are the 2 that I currently have in recruitment. We'll interview for week after next. So that'll bring me to a full staff, hopefully. But then I had 2 maintenance mechanics out of 5 retire, and I'm not getting any action on those. But part of that has to do a lot with the pay scale. We don't pay near what Humboldt State pays, and like we talked a little bit earlier, with everybody and what they're paying everyone on unemployment and what they can get taking that and picking up side jobs on Craigslist for cash. It's a challenge. And so part of this, we said staff shortage. One of the questions I guess I've got here is Does anyone have like a documented mentoring program that they, use as guidelines and follow to start the mentoring, for some succession planning type stuff? Does anyone, any of you have, or are you aware of anything like that available?
Steve, is there a certain type of position that you have in mind when you ask that question?
Not necessarily. I think some of this is just, if you want to talk about more the administrative parts of that, rather than getting down into the, then you get into the specifics that would then drill into the more position specific part of it. So yeah, it was just a thought.
That wouldn't come out of my group, Steve, but I will ask some of my colleagues because I know that at least from a maintenance perspective, they've been trying to do some different things, but I'm not super clear what those are. So I will talk to them and share anything that they have with you.
Part of the reason I asked that is just, with the Education and Resource Committee, if that might not be a good subject line to take to that committee to do some, to work on something like that in a direction that would then help, obviously anybody, as we really look at some of this, how do we replace, the aging staff and the aging workforce, and what do we do to prepare someone to take our jobs? So that would be great, Aubrey, if you find something out.
Other thoughts on this topic? Does anyone feel like we're in a great place with staff? We have robust applicant pools, filling positions quickly, or do you know someone who is? Because I'd like to know what the secret sauce is for them.
Hi, Teresa. This is Robin. We talked about that this morning. We're down a number of individuals in our trades, and it's been difficult, as Steve mentioned, to hire people. We're looking at hiring some younger people who may not have the skills as some of the more expensive trades, and training them to meet our needs. And then we're also moving away from some of the trades so that they're a holistic person, that they can do more than just plumbing or electrical, but they have a little knowledge of everything. I'm not sure how that's going to work, but I think that's the direction we're looking at moving.
Yeah, I mean, that's all really good. I'm looking, okay, I look for some temporary staff in the meantime to, to see what I can get in. Yeah, looking at younger, possibly younger, less experienced group to try and get in, but then, doing that. You get into the more holistic, which I really firmly believe in a position like that. If you're in a union environment, that becomes challenging. Yeah, I mean, but those are all really good thoughts.
Robin, I'm just curious, how are your trades folks and your traditional facilities folks? Are they the ones suggesting that idea of moving towards less experienced folks? And are you loosening job description requirements in this move? Like, talk to me a little bit more about that.
Okay. Again, I recently moved over to buildings and grounds as I work with Res Life in different areas. From what I gathered, it's been difficult because we're really close to Cleveland, and with all the construction, with all the new hospitals, it's been very difficult to get experienced trades in. And over the last year or so, we've lost, I'm guessing from what I gathered, looking at the department list, we're losing our electricians and plumbers because they can get paid a lot more than we can pay them. And so I don't think anyone's overly concerned. I think they would rather have the help because, again, I think they're somewhat feeling overworked and overwhelmed because our buildings are getting older. And that means a lot more projects that need to be done. And so I don't think they're overly concerned about, how young they are, as long as they can do the job and they can train them the way they want them trained. I think it's been working so far. If that helps.
Yeah, I think it's I think we're to the point that we have to start looking at things differently. We hold real firm to some of the requirements we want to see in our candidates. But if we're not getting pools, I think we have to start looking at things differently, just like you are in your campus, Robin. So I think that's great that you're kind of changing your approach there. Who's having luck with temp agencies? Is anybody actually getting temp staff? I'm just curious there. We've not had a lot of luck. It's been difficult to get staff through temp agencies. So I'm just curious how that's going for folks. And you can use the chat if you don't want to talk. So we've not had difficulty.
We haven't had any luck through that line either, Teresa. It's just that hiring market. On the other side, it's definitely a buyer's market for anyone looking for a job at this point.
Yeah, Teresa, similar to Steve, for our custodial staff, it's been very difficult, partly due to the fact they have to, I hate to say this, but they struggle passing the drug test, or they have problems because they have to have some type of transportation to get here. And so it sort of leaves some of us out because, again, they live in Cleveland, but yet trying to get to Berea, it's like 3 different buses. So another issue we run into.
That's tough. So we had a task force that convened to look at our starting rates of pay for some of our multi-incumbent positions, our custodian ones, our HVAC mechanics, general mechanics, most of our frontline staff. And through that, we were able to move some funding around departmentally to increase our starting rates of pay, to get a little ahead of some of our local competitors. But then today, one of our big competitors, they released their rates of pay for the upcoming year, and they just jumped above our new custodial rate of pay. So we spent all this time and we did this work, and it's still a good thing. We're still in a better place, but we didn't get quite as far ahead as we hoped we were going to. Let's see. Oh, that's great, Dee Dee, sharing that HR is really working hard to make sure the minimum requirements for positions are really clear for folks, and that probably helps in your screening process to get through things more efficiently. But because of the rural area, it really limits the use of temp agencies. That makes sense, Dee Dee. That makes sense. We'll go ahead and we'll keep moving. And if folks have stuff, you're welcome to come back to it. Some folks submitted some questions about some best practices. So folks were asking best practices to clean coils and P-Tac units, and then filter changes for central HVAC systems. So Steve, can I put you on the spot? Do you have any resources on these 2 items?
You get into it, and I think most everybody's where it's at right now. filter changes made in the central systems and stuff. We've obviously upgraded our filters. We went from an 8 to a 13, which quadrupled the cost of our filter systems in our area. We are changing them more frequently with the COVID thing. You know, if we've had a possible exposure in a room, we immediately go in and change the filters out. There's still not a lot of, you know, everybody's still in a lot of areas, even, you know, with the architects and engineers type on a lot of this stuff. It still seems to be such a moving target, even though we've been into this, you know, and have 15 months of experience, more experience in it. I've actually got an RFP out to have my HVAC, several of my buildings' HVAC systems assessed, even some of the newer buildings, because I've had issues with some of the newer buildings. And then I'll utilize that assessment to then put together a scope of work to put out for contract, you know, to come in and clean, make changes to systems. You know, I've got buildings that are 7, 8 years old that I'm losing boilers in. So those kinds of things. So we're going to spend some of our COVID money in that respect. I've got a couple buildings that are 2 of the newer ones that don't have any operable windows in them at all, which doesn't make sense here. We don't have air conditioning here on the coast at all. So why didn't we put some operables in? So I'm looking at that. I've got an RFP out for that work to happen, and got absolutely no response from anyone on it the first round. So it's not only the staff, you know, and trying to fill positions on campus, but it's just getting contractors to come do some of the work. I can't get responses on RFPs.
They probably have staff challenges too.
Yeah. So, you know, and I talk with, you know, my one of my HVAC architects, engineers frequently about any changes that he's heard about. And, you know, just trying to stay up on where they're going with some of this stuff. And, you know, most everything is, yeah, okay, change the filters and make sure you've got good air movement, you've got good airflow, and try and get it clean. We're just trying to get some of these things clean and touched up so we can, so staff's more comfortable and keeping them informed on what we're doing at this point.
Thank you, Steve. Anyone else want to comment on this topic? So Josh, that was real interesting what you shared. Josh shared that they had an apartment refurbishment bid that bust. I guess you had no bidders, Josh. Is that what happened?
None that were anywhere near the budget.
Oh.
There was one bidder, and it was double the budget amount. And then we had a good return on apartment or residence hall interior paint bid, but the low bidder determined after they got through one floor that they had underbid by $100,000 and needed to walk away from the job last week. So we're not quite sure what we're going to do with a partially painted building right now, but it's never been like this in my 15 years doing this.
Was there a clause that the university, I don't know if UW, is there something that allowed them to do that, or is there something where UW would actually pursue legal action against that vendor, depending on how the contract's written?
Yeah, I think there are some possibilities. The UW has been very reticent to enforce any liquidated damages clauses, even though we typically have them in our contract. And I think the sentiment on this is that it probably isn't worth pursuing, and frankly would likely bankrupt the company, which has some town gown type relationship issues. So it's sort of that debate of, yeah, we could, but should we? And we'll figure something out.
Yeah, that's kind of been my experience here, where I hear I hear differently sometimes about that. Just a few miles away, that they used to have a very different approach and didn't hesitate to do that. But yeah, we wouldn't opt to do that either. I just wasn't sure. So that's an interesting experience.
Yeah, we're bringing in the second and third bidders to see if they can come and play cleanup. But you know what what painting contractor has a full crew to dedicate midsummer with no notice?
And to go the legal route, unless it's a $40 million contract, painting contracts are one thing. That the legal expenses and the time suck that's going to put on is just, to me, it's not worth the effort. You got to take the opportunity cost on that one and just move on. And the price of material, of course, now it looks like it's kind of peaked and it's starting to turn back down to some resemblance of normalcy, which it'll never get there again, but which will loosen things. I know the local high school here in Eureka, they had, I think, $17 million budgeted for a new gymnasium, and those bids came in about $27 million. So prices are going pretty high right now.
Well, Josh, we'll look forward to an update in our September meeting about how well the painting ended up going.
Yeah, I'll let you know.
Yeah, I don't envy you. I've never had someone walk away like that. So that's tough. A question came in asking, just for those who have some leadership roles with custodial teams, how do you get your staff to really focus on the details during the summer turn? And so what are those things that you've done to have a successful turn with the details? So I'm going to open that up to folks, whether you've done it or you've seen folks on your campus do it.
I can talk to that a little bit. So we are doing something a little bit different in our summer turn process that we've been doing for the last couple years. So we have 3 major areas in our residential campuses, and we try to keep staff in those areas. Historically, in the past, it's usually been the staff that work in that building, clean that building, but now we are looking at areas as a group turn process. So people are assigned to, specifically custodials are assigned to either a cleaning team or a floor care team. And so then they are given a list of tasks that they have to do on that team, and they're given specific rooms. And then once all of that process is done, we then have another group that go through and inspect the rooms so that they then see a report that shows what was missed. And so that really kind of helps the leadership within that group to be able to help staff if they see something that's consistent of, someone missed something in multiple rooms, then they can use that as a teaching moment of, let's talk through this, let's figure out how to do this better. And I think that has helped us through the years so far.
That's good, Aubrey. Others?
Maintain a visual presence.
That's good.
A lot of times if they see you out there and then it to me that has improved things in the past.
We've gone through with our leadership and kind of looked at a space after it had been turned, and then talked about how we would feel about it as the customer when we walked in. So what are the things that stood out to us? Because I think it's real easy for us. It's real easy to fall into like, well, we did the things, but if we can step back and think about the first impressions, we found that helpful in our conversation. The chair is clean, the floor is clean, but when the chair isn't pushed all the way under the desk, if it's just set haphazardly, or our mattress pad is folded on the corner instead of smoothed out, it's things like that that really can distract the good work from the good work that we do. So we've walked rooms with our leadership to kind of talk through those things so that they can then work with the frontline staff on that. Dee Dee, were you saying something?
Nope. I did pose this to custodial manager, and I was hoping through Teams. So I was actually hoping to share his comments with Josh while we're on the call in the chat. So he's still typing, but I did throw Josh's question to our custodial manager. We use checklists. I don't know if y'all use checklists as well in terms of terms. So I think that's been pretty healthy. because then you do have a document you can go back to. Y'all that's probably standard practice for everybody, but those have proved to be fairly successful for us to reference. Somebody signed off on an element of our turn sheet checklist.
Aubrey, what program do you guys use?
For the checklist piece, currently, so they're doing it multiple ways. There is a checklist on each door that stuff is signed off on so that they know which things. And then we use CMS, which is a maintenance system. So we use that to generate tickets to track where people are, and then they close them as they're completing them. And those have the checklist to reference in there as well.
Okay, great. Thank you, guys. Let's see our next item. This is the fall 21 prep, and this has been a conversation or a list or a slide that we've had for a couple of sessions now, but just wanted to go ahead and put it back up to see if there was anything different that folks wanted to talk about, or questions that folks had, or comments in light of your reading of the reentry document from a Hvac. So I don't have any specific questions here, but just kind of wanted to put this up here to see if folks had questions or comments. I think one thing for us is hand sanitizer. So we put dispensers at the entries of all of our buildings, and one per floor. And then when things were looking better, people wanted us to take them back and pull those out. But now things are kind of picking up again. And so just navigating the changing environment with that is something that we're kind of working through right now.
Yeah, we've pretty much decided that we're not going to undo anything we've done for the most part, just because, if we backtrack a little bit, a couple of the buildings you come in the main entrance, but you go out the back door, so we still have some social distancing stickers and things on the floors, and masks, please wear a mask signs up on doors and things. But for right now, we just decided we're just going to leave those things in place and see what happens.
Dee Dee, did you have any aha moments from your reading this weekend of the reentry document?
Not from the facilities angle so much, just that I'm particularly nervous with this new strain and what that might mean depending on our vaccination rate. Of course, we're a state where it's not going to be required to prove, and it's not required to be vaccinated. Looks like we won't have any, masks are encouraged but not required. So I feel like there's definitely some factors at play that I feel like we want to do some further analysis as a community to see, I'm hoping we're going to be prepared. We do enjoy the luxury of having a standalone facility, so it hasn't impacted us being able to take existing beds offline that would affect our occupancy. So we're blessed in that way that it's a separate facility that wasn't online but was brought back online during the pandemic. But just all the logistics. One of the ahas, which I thought was interesting, that I know that we hadn't decided how we were going to cover those costs as a university, was the idea of the cost of isolation and what that means. There's obviously costs in laundering linens. There's the cost in the food costs, because obviously if a student's on a meal plan, their meal plan is covering it, but we have a lot of students who would be participating in Hvac who aren't on meal plans, and so there is a cost to that. And I did see that one of the notes is that some institutions were considering a fee to cover any students that had to be moved into an isolated area, that they were going to develop a charge or something like that to put on the student account. So that was a bit of an aha that's not directly related to facilities in that way, but because the university, all the federal funding and all that, we pretty much, I think, dedicated all our federal funding and have plans for how that's being used to either reimburse or fund, we had a really fantastic testing program. So that was a bit of an aha that I'm not sure anybody at UI had considered yet, was maybe developing a charge to cover those costs.
Thanks for sharing that. That is interesting because we're definitely incurring the cost for all of those things and the labor to support it. Thanks for sharing that, Dee Dee. Robin, yeah, you're getting requests to remove plexiglass from different offices. It was such a struggle to get it to begin with, right? And now, and now we're taking it down. So we we were directed to get those things removed pretty quickly once we got the go ahead. But I was like, don't actually get rid of it, please, because it was so hard to get it. We're going to store that for whenever we're going to need it again. Yeah. Others comments on re-entry or your fall 21 prep. Okay, well, we'll keep going then. We had one person talking about working through their plan for their centralized check-in. So just wanted to put that out there to see if there were questions that folks had. Things you're going to try differently this year. Any lessons learned or wisdom that folks want to share?
So I can share ours because I always think this topic is really interesting. So we've historically in the past for a very long time have done centralized check-in for move-in. And as of last August, we decentralized it for COVID and are continuing it to be decentralized this year as well, because we're trying to not have people gather in one area. We are sending them directly to the residence halls to check in where they're going to receive their keys and all the things that they need. And we will have pre-scheduled times that they have to log in and pick. We've been doing that. We did that for move-in in August and when they returned back to us in January, and we did the same thing when they moved out in November and out in April. So that is kind of our new norm now, is that every move-in and move-out is likely going to be scheduled, which for us is not really anything different. We've done scheduled move-in since 2012. So it's pretty normal for us, and it has really helped us from a planning perspective to be able to log into the system and see how many people. And we set that up so that there's only a certain amount of slots per building, per day, per hour, so that we can kind of make sure that we're not setting anything up for failure. Mm-hmm. So I think for us, we definitely have learned some lessons along the way, but this kind of feels like I was saying earlier, this feels like the normal, because this will be the fifth time that we've done this in the past 14 months.
Yeah. Now, when you say people have to schedule to move out, is that when they're leaving your facilities for good, or was that okay? It wasn't just like I'm going home for winter break and I have to schedule a time.
No, well, we did. So we closed some of our halls over winter break. So not all of our halls are academic year. So if you were leaving for winter break, we were having everyone scheduled, because we wanted to ensure that we knew when people were leaving, and we wanted to ensure that we had everything set up. So again, we weren't having hundreds of people trying to leave a building at the same time. So that's what we actually wanted to pilot it in March of last year, and COVID kind of became our pilot. So it was great.
Okay. So what was the response to move out? Was it difficult to get a time that was desired? I'm just curious about that, because I've not done.
Not really. It actually went pretty well. We did have to change some of the slots when we went in, because there were certain days that more people wanted than we anticipated. But we use the scheduling module in StarRes, which is what we use for all of our housing items. So it was really easy for us to kind of go in and do that on the back end. So
okay, that's cool. Questions for Aubrey or others want to share what they're doing? So Robin shared that they're going to limit the number of residents checking in based on the size of the building. Yeah. We're doing the same. Last year we didn't allow any. We have like bear crew volunteers. So like student organizations can volunteer to help our residence hall students move in. At this moment, I believe we're allowing those volunteers this year. I'm just curious if others are allowing volunteer assistance.
So we kind of have something somewhat similar. We call them OWLs, Ohio State Welcome Leaders. And normally what they would do is we would normally move people in on 2 days. So they would move in on the first large day. And then on the second large day, they would actually be the ones helping everyone move in. This year, we are still following the not unloading people's vehicles. So we're going to have people unload their own vehicles. So we are allowing students to sign up to be OWLs, and we're allowing student groups to sign up, and staff are going to sign up, but it's more of a greeting, answering questions, ensuring that the process is flowing correctly, making sure we have a lot of move-in carts that we provide, making sure the carts make it back down to the loading area. So that's mainly what our group is doing, but we were the same as you last year, Teresa. We only allowed staff members to assist last year. We did not allow any students.
We limited the number of parents folks could, or support people that folks could have last year, and I think we've expanded that this year as well. Okay, well, Aubrey, I really appreciate your comments on that. All right, supplies, just wanted to do a check-in on supplies since there was like the great glove shortage. But so just wanted to see how folks were doing on supplies, anything that you're having shortages on, or just general questions. I saw someone ask relatively recently about where folks get shower curtains. And so I just went ahead and threw that on here as well. So any comments on supplies? No? Okay. All right, that's good. I'm glad we're there. Minus, people to do things. So, all right, professional development. Aubrey has talked about our fall conference being virtual. And there's the conference package option. I don't have the details on that, but that's really a great option for folks to get all of our staff really participating in the fall conference series, because we're not limited and we have so many people that can attend and learn even things that aren't our traditional thing, right? So maybe we're typically just in the facilities conference, but why not jump into the academic initiatives or the business ops areas as well to expand. So just wanted to see if folks had any questions about opportunities for your staff. I saw in the online community, someone had asked about the Appa Supervisor Toolkit recently. And so just wanted to open the floor to that. I will comment on the toolkit if folks are still considering that, the Appa Supervisor Toolkit. We've had multiple folks attend that and found it to be beneficial. It is a time commitment, but we felt like it was worthwhile. Covered a lot of very useful topics that our staff see every day. Others with comments on that?
And I don't know if you've heard about Appa's got a new program come out that has to do, and give me a second to bring this up because Kelly just sent it out last week. It's in regard to the CEFP, the Certified Educational Facilities Professional, and it's kind of like a group discount type thing where they'll actually, if you've got a group of individuals on your campus that are interested, you want to put them through the program and go through the 4 core areas. But it's actually a pretty good deal in order to, where is it? And their P2p program. So Pathways to Professionalism program, customizable program being offered virtually, in person, or a combination of the two. So you get this with Dr. Ted Wiedner as a facilitator of 4 separate days. So you get through the four core areas of the body of knowledge, and you get the webinars, and then it includes the testing and stuff. And usually that program is I think it's $1,400 or so. But this one includes the test and everything. So it's a pretty good deal, but it's out there. If you've got several individuals you wanted to do, to really, if you've got the ability to offer some of that professional development, some of your mid-level staff especially, it would be a really good cost-effective way.
So if folks would like more information about that, I'd encourage you to reach out to Steve so he can get you additional information on that. Thank you, Steve.
Mhm.
All right, and then it looks like there's some information from Tammy on some shower curtain information and some other products you may need. Furniture replacement was also in the community chat, and so just wanted to see if anyone here today had any comments on timeline for their furniture replacement in their student spaces, lounges, or staff apartments. I won't force you to ask questions, but if you have some, I'll go ahead and open the floor to that.
I would say that we replaced student room furniture in 3 buildings this summer. 2 were because we had ordered it. We ordered all of this prior to COVID, but we ordered 2 buildings prior to COVID and they weren't able to get them to us last summer. So we decided, okay, well then just push it because we are going to need to, we didn't want to do onesie twosies. So we just kind of pushed it off till this year. So I think the thing that we have struggled with a little bit with it is, and I think we've talked about this offline, is getting rid of our older furniture and exactly how you do that. And so I think we've definitely had some lessons learned on our end. So I'm always interested if people have other ideas of best ways to do that. We've been able to find a local group that takes all of our mattresses and reuses them, which has been insanely helpful. So we're hopeful that we can find something like that for our student room furniture as well, but always interested if others have ideas of best practices they've learned along the way.
How did you handle what you've changed out so far, Aubrey?
Well, we've done a couple different things. We have a website through our surplus group, which is called Gov Deals, like eBay. That's what we are no longer using that because we have not had good luck with the bidders coming when they're supposed to, picking all the items up, all of that. So we kind of said, like, we can't do this. And so we've utilized a group that we paid to help us. I will leave their name out, but it's not that it was a bad experience. It's just a lot of money, and I feel like there might be a better way to do it. So I think we're just trying to figure out some different avenues to see if there is a better way to do it. I will say that I think the other struggle that I'm sure we are not alone in this is a lot of times that when we're doing student room furniture, for example, in one building that we did it this summer, we also replaced the flooring and pulled out all the built-ins, the old built-ins that we had. So we figured if the room's going to be empty, like, let's go. So we're also on a really tight timeline when we're trying to get that furniture out, which can cause obviously lots of different hiccups. So I think that's kind of why we realized, okay, well, we're going to have to pay somebody probably to help with this, but I didn't know if anybody else had any other avenues they've tried before.
Okay.
So typically, we do what you do, Aubrey. We would hire, we just didn't have the manpower. So we would hire a moving company to empty our building. And then our surplus team would sell it, and they'd sell it on Gov Deals. There were things that they were able to sell, but other things that they just ended up holding on to forever, or had to dispose of in a way that it's not what we want to do. We're not allowed to donate. So that's not an option for us. But one way around that is if we're doing a project along with it, right? So we had a building we were gonna demo. And so we left the furniture in the room, so it was the contractors to handle. The contractor then could choose to donate the furniture. And so that might be one way, is if you are bidding your project early enough that your contractor knows and has time to make plans to handle your furniture. And then they could choose to donate it if it becomes theirs to deal with, theirs to demo and handle. But yeah, we looked at a company that can help, and it was just so much. I love the idea of it. But we've got to be fiscally responsible too. I didn't mean to dominate that. Are there other things that others have done? Okay. All right, so for folks who are new to the group and haven't been online with us before, I've put this link to the online form for you to connect with the group, and there's Joel's email address again. We are not going to meet in August because we need to finish. Josh has got to get that painting project done, and Aubrey's moving in we've got all kinds of things going on. And so we're going to come back together again in September. So if there are things that you would like to talk about, or would like some support on, I would encourage you to reach out to any of us and let us know, and we would love to have some conversation about that or get you connected with resources. So again, next meeting will be on September 20th. Is there anything else for the good of the group? All right, appreciate folks being here. Have a great opening, and we will see you in September.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you.